Thank you for meeting with me virtually.
Oh,
Um,
you.
I have to say that so your artwork in the current members exhibit is the most asked about.
Ah, That's
When
awesome.
people, yeah, it is. So that's what prompted me to reach out and say, hey, can we chat about it? Yeah, a lot of people have said to me, what is that? And can I touch it? And and they want to know like how, so the backgrounds, are they painted? Are they the upholstery? So that's one of the things I definitely want to talk about. But first, I thought maybe a little background would be good, just for listeners. So you have 2 degrees. You have a bachelor's from BU and then a BFA from RISD, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. And I looked at your website and I was like, wow, you're like exactly the example of what I think young artists aspire to. I have a senior in high school that's doing his senior project with me and wants to know the business of art, and I want to point him in your direction. He's interested in illustration, and yeah,
Oh, wow.
because you've done a lot. It's amazing what you accomplish.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Yeah, no, I did. It was a little backwards. I've always drawn. I mean, ever since I was, like I have 2 young kids that are 5 and 7, and I remember around being 7 years old and drawing all the time. And I went to Boston University for a degree in advertising,
mhm.
and then I never stopped drawing. So I did ultimately end up going to RISD. And then after that, actually, after doing all the illustration, I went into graphic design. And I did that I'm still doing it. But about 5 years ago, I got heavily back into drawing again. And then that's been kind of taking me on a path over the last 5 years where I started doing pen and ink again, which is kind of where my roots are at. And then I spent more time. I was like, well, really would like to get some color in these. So then I started doing watercolor, and then that in turn got me back into. I did painting obviously while I was at RISD, and then I was like, well, I want to paint now. So I started painting using acrylics, and then I have gotten into the most recent phase is this upholstery fabric. My mother was an upholsterer. She upholstered furniture
Oh,
when I was young, so I do think that's kind of where it comes from. Because she used to have, I mean, growing up in our basement, I mean, there was just upholstery fabric laying everywhere. So
wow.
and that definitely, I think, has kind of snuck in on the back, and part of the reason that I've taken to this.
Yeah. Well, that was one of my questions. What inspired you to use the upholstery fabric as canvas? I think I read, do you actually stretch it like a
Yep,
canvas?
yep, yep. So I buy stretchers, and it's the original. I'm trying to think of the very first one that I did on upholstery fabric. It may have been, I believe it was the hummingbirds. I think hummingbird number 1. I've done 3. I'm actually working on the fourth one right now. But I I had this idea. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but to paint on upholstery fabric. I went to Lorraine Fabrics and I kind of walked around there, and I spotted this floral tapestry type fabric, and I picked it up, and then I painted a hummingbird on it, and I was like, wow, this came out cool. And I do I know one of the questions has been, is it is the background just the upholstery fabric? And I do paint the backgrounds, but that has taken on a different path where now I was approaching it like idea first, then upholstery fabric. And as I've kind of progressed with this, I've been letting more of as I find different upholstery fabrics, I kind of let them dictate to me what I'm going to paint, if that kind of makes sense. So there's
Yeah.
a kind of a back and forth now happening where I almost liken it to, like, when you're a kid and you're looking up at the sky and what do you see in the
Yeah.
clouds? There is a bit of that where I kind of stare at the rooster and the seahorse. Both use, and I have the fabric here. Both use the same fabric. I actually think they're on 2 different colors. So I think I have a blue version
Oh,
of this and a brown version of this. But both
yeah.
of these start. Let's see here. Start here.
Yeah.
And the Seahorse, I actually did a goldfish too, on this fabric as well. And I've done an owl on it. I've done a bunch of different things, but the goldfish, I saw the fins kind of wrapping around it. And then I was like, oh, I could do a whole underwater series. So then I started looking at the Seahorse, obviously too, this kind of has that wrapping ocean type feel. So I did the Seahorse, but you can see too, the Seahorse has lots of reds in it, oranges.
Yeah.
So I do really push the fabric to incorporate the colors that I want to incorporate. But I try to keep. I love the texture I get with this type of upholstery fabric, where you get a really nice when the light catches it. The texture comes through along with the paint. But I've done an owl on it. The swirls of these ended up looking at a certain angle, like eyes of an owl. So I did an owl as well on it, and I actually did a lighthouse on it as well. I do like painting lighthouses as well. I do a lot of animals, but I recently did a lighthouse on this as well, and I used the swirling pattern of this as kind of like clouds.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of, you stare at it like, what do you do? But this particular fabric I have gotten a lot of mileage out of, just because it is a little bit like the sky. You kind of stare at it like, oh, what can I paint on it this time?
Seeing it, it's just so fantastic how the same fabric, like looking at the goldfish, the Seahorse, the rooster, like totally different. I didn't put it together that it was the same base fabric.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the rooster as well. And that one too, really I sit there and I do play with the placement. I know once I have the idea, I know what I'm going to paint. But the rooster, that particular rooster, is actually we came across him at Verde Vineyards in Johnston. Me and my wife, we were there, and that rooster, he was walking around and just all this attitude, and we snapped a bunch of photos of him, and the way the fabric just wrapped around right around his eye, just it made me. It was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do, and it came out cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I also really like how when you want to, you mask the fabric. Like, the rooster, for example, the feathers are really smooth. It's like, you get a sense of the feathers, and the same thing with the Seahorse and the goldfish. Like there's no trace of the fabric, really, that pattern, you masked it and you're using just the pattern for where you want to use it. So that's a really interesting kind of push-pull. So as a fellow artist parent, I'm curious about your kids. Are they, how do they feel about your artwork? And they want to do it with you?
Yeah, no, I had, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was President's Day, I do teach as well. So I teach in RISD's CE program. So I do very much, I teach young adults there. So teenagers, 13 to 17. And I actually teach what is my roots, which is pen and ink, cartooning, comic book illustration. So they like to do it with me. So we had, sometimes we'll have like art class with daddy, and they set up their paper. They will paint with me. I do, most of my painting is done in the evening after work. I'll sit down for an hour. Sometimes I might get a little more mileage, but it is a nice way for me to end my evenings, is to kind of sit down and paint. And then, sometimes I'll get more done on the weekends, but they do like to sit there. They are young, so they kind of, they hang in there for a little bit, and then they're like, okay, well, I have all these crayons, so I'm going to apply them all at once, and they just start applying, all the colors. But it will be interesting to see. They both have that same kind of attention to detail, that I remember having, as a young kid. And so it will be interesting to see if they have, any inclination to go into it when they get older.
Right. Yeah. So you've kind of incorporated it sounds like, into like a daily practice, or as much as you can.
Yep. Yeah, no, I do. I sit down in the evenings. So the kids are used to it. They'll usually by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm sitting down and I'm painting, and they usually come in and comment, they'll say, oh, daddy, like I'm working on a hummingbird right now. Oh, that hummingbird looks really good. And I was working on a fox recently, and oh, daddy, that fox looks really awesome. They come in with their little, and sometimes they'll critique a little bit, like, hi, that fur doesn't look quite orange enough. Like, oh, okay, pal, I'll sit down.
That's great.
I'll mix some more orange, but yeah, it is a lot of fun. And then I think they enjoy it, and they enjoy seeing me do it.
Right, right. Oh, that's awesome. So is there anything like what's next? Like, is there anything that's kind of unexamined yet? Anything that you're looking forward to exploring, or you?
I don't, that is a good question. I would say that I just kind of pursue, and I have, it's been interesting looking at it because, like I said, I started at Pen and Ink back in 2015, going like really heavy into that, and then it's kind of evolved along the way. I am really interested in the fabrics. One thing I have been, and my mom has been emailing me places to find more fabric because that's, there's Lorraine's. There's fabrics.com. Apparently, she just let me know that eBay sells fabrics that which I did not know. So trying to find different places to find different patterns to work with. And I have been going bigger. I've done some bigger pieces recently. And just seeing too, because then you get so much more pattern versus, concentrating on just a small piece of the pattern. And kind of seeing what kind of results that produces. And I've also started making my own frames. So that's paved the way as far as, I guess, more control on I was running into a problem where, I get these done, they're stretched on canvas, but I can't get a frame, because they only come in 11 by 14 or, 16 by 20. So it's constantly in that kind of box of, I can only make it this size.
Literally.
It constantly evolves, but I'm just thrilled that people are asking about the artwork there at the show, and it just it's a great feeling to produce work that is inspiring people to ask questions.
Right. So so the show is up through the end of this week, and it's been nice that people have been purchasing your note cards, because I guess they want to take home a little piece of your artwork. Maybe they can't buy the bigger one, so that's great. And that I'm going to send you a picture that I took. I was on a gallery tour in Florida, and this woman painted on furniture. And and I have this settee that is really worn out, the fabric. I need to reupholster it. And as I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, that would be so cool. Like, she painted like this whole kind of illustration, like this character on a settee.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I think you'd appreciate it. So I'm going to send you a picture of that. And let's see, I'm just looking through your images there. So you do have an Etsy store?
I do. Yes.
That's great. Yeah, you should publish a book. These are, they're just so whimsical. I love that pumpkin. Is that that's not the same fabric again, is it? The pumpkin.
That's a different floral fabric. So I do that one, I'm not sure where that fabric came from.
What's interesting about that is that you have like the leaves going over the front of the pumpkin.
Yeah, so I believe this is the Peacock.
Yeah, the Peacock's a great one.
Yeah, the Peacock I had a lot of fun with. And I did the fox and the peacock are actually on the same fabric.
Oh wow.
So I've been trying to. I saw the when I saw that fabric, all I saw was a peacock. When I got that one at Lorraine's, and I was like, oh yeah. And then so I painted two different peacock paintings on that. And then when I was painting it, I was like, man, I can kind of see the way it kind of bends here. I can kind of see a fox, like the eyes and everything like that. So I did do a small 10 by 10 fox. And then this here is the fabric for the, let's see here, for the pumpkins.
Oh.
Let's see. So the leaves actually are formed by this. So yeah, I kind of looked at it. Let's see here. I saw they have such big, right here. This one right here.
Right.
It looks just like a pumpkin leaf. And so yeah, I kind of, this is where I start. And then, I get a rough idea of how I want to place it. And when I stretch it, and then I find some reference, of course, for the pumpkin, but then it is a little bit as, kind of flying by the seat of my pants while I paint, making decisions on, all right, well, what do I want to cover up of the fabric pattern? what do I want to pull forward, and kind of push and pull from there.
Yeah.
But
Push and pull. That's exactly, yeah, that's what I was thinking about, how some parts of the fabric recede in some areas and get highlighted in other areas. It's really fantastic. I love it.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share your
Oh,
process.
absolutely. Thrilled to do so. So
All
thank you so
right.
much for having me.